much for having a break. Hope that you can get a chance to get coffee. I can see also some familiar faces, Calamano. What I wanted to say is just to announce the next speaker. The next speaker is going to be Andreas Papp. This is going to be very interesting talk because it's not going to be some kind of talk that you can listen all the time at the data science and the AI conferences, especially because of Andreas' background. He's not data scientist, he's not AI engineer, but he's doing a lot of stuff in terms of AI, in terms of NGO. So basically, he's going to give us how state-of-the-art technology helps to save our life. He's going to give us use cases, and you will see how we basically can really try to make a better society with using of technology. So without further ado, I would like just to invite Andreas to start with his presentation. And if you have some questions at the end, I'm sure that you will have, don't hesitate to ask. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. My name is Andreas Papp. My brother has invited me to talk about the work of NGOs, basically. And I will introduce you to some of the challenges that organizations like Doctors Without Borders or Red Cross or Caritas are having when they are out in the field addressing the needs of people who suffer from all sorts of crises. War, conflict, as we all know. I don't need to go into details for natural disaster whatsoever. Maybe a bit back why I'm ending up here, and I have decided in 2004, not about the legacy of my life as my brother did, but I was actually paralyzed in front of the television about the pictures, about the stories I saw on the news about people suffering. And I tried to give it a chance. I applied for Doctors Without Borders because I thought it was a good organization. I attended a mechanical engineering school. I studied some years of business administration and was at that time HR manager at the daily newspaper in Austria, responsible for 200 staff. And they took me. They took me and they asked me to go to Darfur, where there was a war, a conflict taken place. And I was responsible for HR and finance, like I was before in the newspaper. And doing so, I'll continue a bit. I was
maybe you put the wrong button. So yes, front and back. That's fine.
Nice. Wonderful. I worked, and I'm done with my about myself. I worked then in a dozen settings, conflicts mainly. I specialized on working in war zones and coordinating them. After I did administration and logistics, I was coordinator. Countries like Somalia, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Gaza Strip, etc., etc. And in total 3 years, and then I turned into a program director, where I focused on the application of new technologies. And it started with a phone call from the University of Salzburg, who took satellite images from a camp where I was working, and they wanted to know a bit more about what this and that on the ground means. And that was the start of a fruitful partnership until up to date. Here you see the emergency response cycle. So here somewhere you have the incident, the earthquake, the tsunami, the outbreak of conflict, armed conflict. Then you have the response. Then you have a recovery phase. And then you turn into monitoring of the situation and early warning if it happens again. And everywhere in this circle, we applied Earth observation data. satellite images that have been analyzed partly by software that programmers and specialists like you are developing, and that give us in the field information that we need, urgently need. There we don't have the means that you have, or sometimes simply not the time to do all that because we have to concentrate on other things. One of the first things you can imagine out there, what you need is clean water for people who are suffering, who flee a conflict, who are impacted by a natural disaster. And one of the solutions they provided for us was a map which shows actually a radius of 30 meters where we are able to drill down and find water. Sometimes you have 10,000 people gathering within a couple of days when they flee conflict, and you have to supply them with water. When you don't have a water source on the ground, what do? You take a truck, water truck. So you drive up and down thousands of liters every day. I mean, CO2 is the least thing what we are worried about, but certainly it has also impact in this direction. But it's costly and not enough. Second, you develop a pipeline. I mean, also difficult to set up in a very short time. Or these people, the scientists, the geophysicists, the GIS specialists, provide you with a map where they indicate the drilling hole, and you drill down. And you don't need the 2 or 3 weeks of the analysis on the ground. No, you can do it right now. That means we are able to save much more lives in the time being until otherwise we would find water. And water is not just water when you look at the quality of water. I mean, dirty water is killing especially children because of diarrhea, etc. So that's just the case where we have real added value coming from technology. Next one is the population monitoring, as we call it. Satellites, high resolution satellite imagery, as you see here, is taken, and then software derived data from software programs are telling us how many people are living in camps, how many people are moving into camps. Or, in another case, we took some images where we wanted to send our emergency team to the people who are in need the most. So you can see already from the structure of the image, is it an organized campsite, or is it just randomly some people who have taken a plastic sheet on 4 poles and built it? And there where the needs are the biggest, you send your teams. There was an example where we could not access a camp because of security. In DACH, a camp, 350,000 people are currently there since '93. It's existing in Kenya at the border to Somalia. And 3 of our colleagues have been kidnapped by Somalis, brought into Somalia, and were only released 1.5 years later. So we had the troubles of, we could not send experts in, but we received worrying data of an increase for food and material. But we couldn't identify it through the stories and through the reports because no new tents were reported. We took an image, analyzed it, looked at an older picture, and saw the number of new tents. They were not outside. Why? Because women and girls feared to be raped when they go outside to the toilet into the forest, or they there are in an unorganized camp setting, subject to harassment by whoever, other groups. So we understand that it was all accurate and could then adapt our supply. So it gives also first-hand information when you start planning the operation in your logistics center to send in the material. So you have the first information, what is needed, where it's needed, and that, again, say price. Here you can always see the different institutions involved, very often funded by the Research Promotion Agency, the start at least of the programs, and that is a particular issue I come a bit later then. Here, environmental change. So the next thing is food. People need to eat. After shelter, after water, for sure food is essential. Here, just this picture, this is Turkey, this is Syria, and you see green is a positive development of vegetation, and here you see red. Why? Obviously because there was a war, and farmers could not cultivate their land in a way that they produce food. You can identify, and that's what we do, with microwaves from satellites, the soil moisture, 2 centimeters. We all penetrate it all the time out there by a small portion of microwaves. And they show you the humidity, the water resources on the ground, so surface water. But they, again, not me, the scientists at the university, this time it was the Technical University Vienna, developed an algorithm for different types of soil that tells us, is there enough soil moisture for the plants they are planting? So we could do a forecast of the food they are able to harvest and then start supplying seeds, etc., etc. And also calculate if we have more people in the area soaring prices and cut off trade lines, how much food in addition do we need to be able to feed the population, the people, the internally displaced on the spot on the ground. Here, there's a mapping. Here you can again see what these satellites can show us, where there is flooding. Why is that important? In the beginning, when you start moving it, you know that, or you get reports sometimes when electricity is still up and you have a connection, or by radio calls about the needs and the people suffering. But the next question is, how do I get it when there is flash flooding? Looks like this. The great thing is, you deliver the information and your needs to the scientists, to the colleagues, to the partners at the universities, and at some companies lately. And they, while you are on an airport, whatever, and checking in, checking out, arriving there, and then you get a map. When you find, you go like this, whatever, and you find the roadmap to the place you have to go. This, again, is essential to be ready and able to bring the urgent needed material or the services, the aid, medical aid, very often, in the case of Doctors Without Borders, as you know, to the people who are in need. President.
Maybe just magic touch. Yes.
Magic touch. Good. This is also a magic thing. And now I'm coming into the new program, new project called PeaceEye. What we want to do after looking at food, water, people, the environment as such, we thought, and I don't need to explain why we have to get rid of wars and conflicts in this room, we wanted to tackle the issue of changing and maybe avoiding or preventing conflicts where they start, where they develop. Because I have been in the field, and in front of my eyes, I see a war evolving. And here, this is just, maybe I'll jump later to it, this is just where the traffic on social media is scanned, and you can draw a lot of conclusions in areas like Sachsenhausen. You don't have running water, you don't have toilets, but you have a GSM network, and people are communicating via the mobile. How many? 2 minutes? 5 minutes. I have 3 slides in this. So there we are with you guys, and you understand what that means, the different data sets. And here you read about data quality. You are the data specialists. I would consider, maybe I'm just a data pharmacist, that I know where I have to look to find the information that I need to perform a work or to improve the quality of our operations. You know how to combine it, how to analyze it, and tell us what to do with it. And this, as I'm short of time, I go not into details, but some of the services you may know, some of the organizations you may know, especially Copernicus, famous occurrence in the media yesterday about climate change. Here you have a summary again of the portfolio of the university in Salzburg, the Dublin laboratory. They found it together with Dr. Villa-Cordes after, or that was already happening after my time there. And yeah, some of the issues we have touched, but I'm sure there is much more to be developed soon. So, before I stop, quickly to the potential use case. Sometimes tribes in South Sudan fight over the scarcity of resources, of food. And you see that. And what they do sometimes, they steal cattle from the other. Then they take children from the other tribe as hostage to negotiate, etc., etc. So these things happen in front of our eyes. So what you can do is to inform politicians, to inform diplomats that they jump in, which they did in the case of Abiy very well. Some deputy ministers came and prevented that huge crisis started, a huge war started there. But what we want to do in general is to combine human intelligence. That's what the NGOs see, do know. Local communities. I mean, the people run around everyone with a mobile phone. They could tell us what's going on the ground. And together with the satellites who are out there, we already see the type of stress that certain areas have for the people who live there, especially with the climate change, when there is no harvest, not enough water, etc. And then we also look into the last slide, into the social media behavior. I mean, when you see a demonstration, or we go there and do this and this and that, I mean, you can see that. And then you have stress indicators that you can look at, share. Here's another about the building block of PeaceEye, what we want to do. So here you have the data, the geodata, which we mix with human intelligence, and that gives us a picture that we are able to share with others to prevent another outbreak of war. Here again, here is the university, the spin-off company of the university, the Peace Center in Schleining, Austria, biggest or only peace center as such involved in these programs, and myself doing this, and I'm happy to answer some questions, or I'm more than happy to receive advice from you guys. Thank you very much.
So are there any questions? Oh, both right here. Can we have one of the microphones? Awesome talk. Really, really cool. Thanks a lot for that. I think you have partially answered my question, but I want to pose it a bit more general. If you speak technically, my question is like, how much of the data, we've seen different use cases, how much of the data you're using at the moment is, I would say, descriptive in sense of you use it, there's already something happened, and you see, okay, where's the plot? And how much is this used prescriptive in sense of you try to avoid something? It seems PeaceEye is going into that direction of happening earlier. Do you see a trend there, or?
Exactly. Thanks for the question. This is exactly what the industry, if I call the NGO industry, the NGO world, is striving for, the forecasting.
Okay.
And there, the models, computers are able to predict for us and show us with the data we actually are about to analyze. That is, there most of the NGOs look into forecasting into so-called vulnerability studies. So to understand beforehand if that and that is taking place, already we know what's going to happen afterwards. We're able to prepare ourselves, and that saves many, many lives and huge, huge costs. In the aftermath of the crisis, I mean, you have to rebuild everything, etc., etc. Just imagine some of the conflicts wouldn't have taken place. And this is where we go to.
Maybe a small follow-up. Are NGOs prepared for that? Because I could imagine that the measures you take if there's an acute crisis are completely different to the measures you take to avoid it, isn't it?
The answer is very clear, and it's a big, big no.
Okay.
The NGOs are not prepared. And I'm allowed to say that I've worked 20 years with them and got to know in headquarters, but also in the field some. And I tell you why, and this is not a criticism towards them, but NGOs don't recruit data specialists on a large scale. They don't recruit geoinformatics. It's a logistician who knows how to use computers, who start to play with the technology. So therefore, we need cross-sector collaborations. And NGOs are willing to engage in funding and developing companies. It's not that anymore. When they say, okay, this is the topic where we are not good, but there are people out there, they are good, but they say, we want to start this as a company and not an NGO, and we want to make money. I mean, as long as we do not need to invest a lot of our own money and we receive the data, they can make as much money they want. No big deal, no problem. And then you have the type of investors who see that as an advantage, as a venture capital interest. Why not? If at the end it saves lives and it gives me the information that I need to do so to perform my work in the lab, I'm the first one to sign.
Let's do one more.
Yeah. Sorry. Thanks for the Andreas talk. As I see, it's a project. PeaceEye is a project. How far are you with the project? Are you at a PowerPoint level, or are you already building stuff? Let's say, is there some code already happening?
Yes. So we have it on our plate since, or we're discussing this since a year approximately. 5 months ago, we have started the application process for ESA funding for the first study, and it's there since 3 weeks now. After 3 rounds in Austria with the Research and Promotion Agency, we are finally at the ESA. In 2 or 3 weeks, we get an answer. But interestingly, we have contacted the security and business continuity departments of Austrian big industrial companies, and they were the first ones who responded. Not the NGOs. The NGOs said, come back when you have a solution. We don't waste our money. We don't want to waste our money. That's what my president 15 years ago said to me when I came for 50,000. I went to a foundation who gave me 150,000. And that was the start of it. But to come back to your question, We are looking for partners. We are looking for investors. We have a pitch deck already. I saw it last week. And one of the professors at the university in Salzburg, a geophysicist and a geoinformatics specialist, has already started 15 startups, so he knows the job well. And hopefully, we can make it happen soon. Thank you.
Okay. A round of applause for
I'm
Andreas.